Hi, my name is Gavin Fish. I'm the Director of Training here at MIT Cables, and I've been asked to make a short presentation to you about the evolution of cable technology here at MIT. Let's go ahead and dig right in. MIT Cables has been at the forefront of cable technology since it began. You probably understand the history of MIT Cables and how Bruce Brisson, our founder and the lead of our engineering department, started the whole cable industry, the high-end cable industry, when he released phase coherent windings back in the early 80s with Monster Cable. Since that time, MIT's always been on the cutting edge of new technologies, and we feel like we have an ethical responsibility every time we discover some new meaningful technology to release that to the public. So when those discoveries are made, we release them to the public as soon as possible. For example, in 2010, MIT released through its HD and HR products fractional articulation technology, or FAT. This was released to the public through the Oracle MAX2 high definition speaker interfaces, also the Oracle Matrix 120 HD, the Oracle Matrix 100 HD, and the Oracle Matrix 90 HD. We also released this technology through the Oracle V1.3 HR speaker interface and the Oracle 2.3 HR interface. Shortly thereafter, in 2011, fractional octave analysis helped us to understand the nature of FAT, and it helped us to understand how we could improve on the products that we'd already released. And so in 2011, we released the Oracle MAX2 Super HD speaker interface, the Oracle Matrix 120 SHD, the Oracle Matrix 90 HD Revision 1 speaker interface, as well as the Matrix HD 60 and Matrix HD 28. There have been concerns about the speed at which we're releasing products. Again, we do this because when we discover something new or a new technique that can improve on technology that we've already released, we feel like we have the responsibility to release that to the public, and that's what we did just 1 year after we discovered FAT. So in order to understand the evolution of MIT's technology, what I want to do is take you through a little bit of the modern history of MIT. Like I said earlier, you probably understand about the history dating back to the late 70s, early 80s of Bruce Brisson and subsequently founding MIT Cables. But let's just talk about the last 10 or 11 years. Now, when I go through this, I want to talk to you a little bit about music theory and how it applies to the science of transporting a complex audio signal from the input of a cable through to the output. It's actually quite a complex science, and music theory takes a very, very important role in that science. So what I want to talk to you about first are octaves. The octave has been called the miracle of music because it is the foundation upon which music is created. An octave is an interval between one tone and another tone that is exactly double moving up the frequency or exactly half moving down the frequency range of the fundamental tone. So as an example, if you've got a tone of 440 hertz, which is an A, if you were to hit the octave of the A above it, A5, you would find that that is exactly double 440, which is 880. If you were to go down to A3 on a piano keyboard, it's exactly half of 440, which would take it down to 220, and so forth. So now there is a unit of measurement when measuring an octave, and the unit that we use, they're called cents, C-E-N-T-S. In the Western scale, there are 1,200 cents in an octave. Now this becomes important because in our tests here at MIT, well, first of all, it's widely accepted that a regular, normal, everyday person can hear a 5-cent differentiation between tones, whether whether it is sharp or flat, up or down the audio bandwidth. Now, through our study here at the lab here at MIT, we've determined the audiophiles, either because they're born, they have a genetic predisposition to good hearing, it could just be through years of practice, or for whatever reason, an audiophile can easily detect a 2-cent difference between notes. So if I were to hit a 440, an A, just slightly sharp by 2 cents, an audiophile can hear that. In fact, here at MIT, we've tested individuals that test even within even tighter tolerances than that, down to about a 1 cent interval between a tone and another, whether it's sharp or flat. So at MIT, we know that it's very, very important to engineer to exacting specifications when we're optimizing the cable for certain frequencies. Now, what I'm showing you right now is a graph. As a MIT dealer or distributor, you've seen the articulation graph before. I'm sure it's on most of our packaging or inside. And so I won't get into exactly what this graph tells you, but the horizontal axis is the frequency bandwidth, vertical axis is articulation. Now, that dotted line right down the center is ideal articulation. Okay. Now, what you're seeing here in these colorful bumps is you're seeing poles of articulation that are arranged exactly on each octave. This was the technology that we originally called Oracle technology. It was an optimization of the octaves of music. And that's very important because that's the foundation upon which all modern technology at MIT Cables is based. Now, when we optimized the octaves, what we found out was that not only were we getting a better defined sound stage on all 3 axes, but also we started to detect textures. Because of this, the 3-dimensionality of the played back music became very, very lifelike and very close to what a live venue may sound like. Now, later on, we started to decide how we could build upon octave optimization that we did in the Oracle technology, and we started to study harmonics. Now, a harmonic, first of all, occurs in nature. A harmonic happens every time a tone is created, whether that is a pluck of a string or a hit of a drum or anything that creates a sound. There is a fundamental sound, and then there are multiple harmonics of that sound. The reason that we can hear the difference in musical instruments, for example, say you take a trumpet that plays an A440, and then you take a clarinet that plays an A440. Well, they're playing the same frequency, but they sound completely different. And the reason that is because the different magnitudes of harmonics based on how that instrument is created or how that sound is made. So harmonics are very important and they occur in nature. Harmonics always happen outside of the octave, and they're always ascending in nature. Now, what does that mean? This is an easy way to understand it. Because everything in music and frequencies is mathematic, it's all related mathematically. And so with harmonics, what you do is you multiply the fundamental frequency. So the first harmonic is 1 times 1, which would be the fundamental. 1 times 2, which would be the second harmonic, is exactly what we described earlier when we talked about octaves. That's the second octave because you're multiplying 1 times 2. 1 times 3 starts to get into the second octave. It's halfway between the beginning of the second octave and the end of the second octave. And that gives you a fifth. And then up from there, the fourth harmonic will hit the second octave, 1 times 4. The fifth harmonic will hit a major third of that second octave, and so on. And it continues to go up. And again, because because the magnitude of harmonics differ with each instrument played or each human voice or whatever sound we're talking about. That's what distinguishes the difference between those instruments. For example, the trumpet and the clarinet that we talked about earlier, they're playing the same fundamental frequency, but the magnitude of the harmonics are so drastically different that it sounds completely different. Now, what does that mean in music playback? Well, what we've determined is if you have a cable or any component in your system, but with MIT we focus on cables, if you have a cable that is diminishing or altering or increasing the magnitude of the natural harmonics that occur, then it doesn't sound real. And that is what accounts for, in a great way, why some systems sound more lifelike than others. At MIT, our task is to make it so that the cable does not diminish or alter or magnify anything, so that when the complex musical signal goes through there and those fundamentals are hit and each harmonic is hit, it gets to the loudspeaker as it got into the cable. So what we did with MA technology, if you guys remember the Oracle MA, maximum articulation technology is what it was called. We released it in 2006. And in this technology, we optimized those harmonics. So as we built upon the Oracle octave optimization, we then took each octave and we optimized the first 7 harmonics of each octave. And there are reasons that we chose that number 7. At this point, it's really not as important to get into that, but just know that for every octave, we optimized the cable's ability to transport each harmonic up to the 7th harmonic. Now, what did this do? This added more timbre to the musical playback. By timbre, I mean the different textures and the different tones because of those harmonics. And because it improved the timbre of the music, the sound became more lifelike. It became more three-dimensional. We started to see micro imaging, images within images. We had a very, very well-defined, non-fuzzy, if you will, soundstage. And just overall, it became a better musical experience. And so this, again, was released in 2006, and we called this MA technology. Now, the final thing that we discovered is what we call FAT, fractional articulation technology. FAT is based on an understanding of musical intervals within each octave. We call these intervals consonant intervals. The word consonant just simply means pleasant, pleasing to listen to. So an interval is, it occurs within an octave, whereas a harmonic goes outside the octave. An interval, a consonant interval, occurs within each octave. And unlike harmonics, they're not separated by whole integers. They're actually separated by fractions, which is why we can get these intervals inside the octave. If you think of a musician playing the piano, a pianist, that pianist will make chords with certain keys on the keyboard. Now, those chords are intervals of a fundamental frequency, and they're pleasing to listen to. And this is what all Western music is based on, is these chords within each octave. Now, what we've determined is that through reading of several authors and through and several musicians, that the more simple the ratio of the intervals to the fundamental, the more pleasant it is to listen to. And so when we talk about intervals, let's say we start at A440 again, the first consonant interval is a minor third. And the second consonant interval is a major third, and then we go on through fourths and fifths, and those intervals are the ones that are the simplest ratios mathematically from the fundamental tone. So how do we apply this to to our technology inside our cables. Again, we called this fractional articulation technology, and this was released in 2010, first in the Oracle MAX2 HD speaker interface. What we've done is, with each octave, we have optimized the intervals, the consonant intervals within each octave, in addition to the harmonics and the octaves that we optimized before. Now we're getting extremely rich texture, a very, very dense image. Not only are we getting the timbre, but we're getting the density of the image, and we're able to see or feel, or we're able to detect with our ears and with our emotions the mass inside the image, that density of the image. Now, this is very important because we've once again gotten one step closer to the grail quest that we talk about in high-end audio, which is a playback, a recorded playback that is as realistic as the original live performance. Okay, so that happened in 2010. In 2011, we had been studying, and we determined that we could actually do one better. And because we discovered we could do one better, we decided to go ahead and release that, because we feel we have that responsibility to the end user, to the audiophile consumer. The best that we can make, a cable perform, we want to release it to the world. And we called this super high definition technology. Now, super high definition technology is actually, it's still fractional articulation technology, but we have added one more pole of articulation, and actually just the little gap right before the fundamental frequency. And we've done it both ascending from the fundamental frequency and descending below the fundamental frequency. And because there are roughly 12 octaves within the audio bandwidth, that gave us 25 extra poles. Now, what happened when we added Super HD fractional articulation technology is we just got that little bit more timbre, that little more texture. The image became just that little more dense, and we feel like this is the best that we can do with the understanding that we have of the technology to date. Thank you very much for listening.